Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Tougies Take podcast. We are back again. It is us, the guys, the fellas, your hockey friends. I am joined alongside Mr. Sim for the win.
Yes.
And returning, Endurance.
Happy Easter. Jesus has risen and trans lives matter.
There you go. So, okay, well, let's start there. Why not? The first and foremost, you missed the show last week where we talked about NHL esports because you were under the weather and stuff like that. Stressful times for our boy, but he's still here, and we love him.
I left my thoughts under the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Basically, it comes down to your appearance for an event determines how things are going to go. There are a lot of stuff happening with that event and how it's been run that are questionable. I think the partnership with them doing DreamHack, we were talking about last week. If you missed last week's show, we talked about how they had GWC North American Finals in the showroom floor of a NHL storefront with shitty Fanatics jerseys in the background. And I think there was like a loop of a guy trying to grab a Sharks jersey, just B-roll of a guy trying to look at a Sharks jersey for a good little bit. That's what Deke was saying on Twitter at Deke Slayer. If your presentation and appearance and promotion of your product is subpar, you're gonna have a subpar experience. Forget the fact that there are several facilities that are available that probably are available throughout the entire year. Not to mention Monumental Sports, the parent company of the Washington Capitals, having a brand new state-of-the-art esports center for their Caps basketball team with the NBA 2K League, and just a general state-of-the-art facility that's been used for multiple things. Not to mention Toronto's Red Bull Gaming Studio, which has had multiple events by Leafs Gaming, which ran an amazingly better run event than what GWC was. Like, they didn't have gaming chairs; they just had fold-up chairs. Like, it was bad. Anyways, to move on from that, Easter.
God, let's not get into that, though.
Easter.
I was gonna say, that's all I had seen this weekend was the fake outrage over how. Oh, now they scheduled Trans Awareness Day on Easter. It's
Trans Day of Visibility.
Easter's on the same day every year.
Yeah, April Fools, guys. Every year they've done it since 2009. Yeah. It's been a day.
Yeah.
Okay.
So did you guys have anything good or fun happen this weekend as opposed to any of that nonsense?
I had Easter dinner.
No, not really.
Like lunch.
nothing too remarkable.
Sin and I played pro clubs and both wanted to jump out of a window.
Yeah,
that was fun. It was one of those nights. Endo, you just have fun every week anyway. We don't even have to get into those details. You just have fun all the time.
My life is a fucking zoo, dude. I feel like Harambe about to get fucking shot. My parents brought over Easter eggs with candy and chocolate inside there, so that was good. We had a good, nice feast. My mom cooked up a bunch of lamb ribs. What else did we eat? We ate the sacrificial lamb. He tasted great. Marinated for 3 days in a cave and rose above into my stomach. It's a Jesus joke.
It is.
Jesus joke. But no, it's been a good week. God damn it! Laugh.
So
if
you couldn't tell everybody, it's gonna be one of those episodes. But like I said, I think I said this. If I didn't, hey, it is what it is. We actually, excuse me, have a lot of hockey to talk about, kind of. And as per usual with hockey, we have the good, the bad, the mostly bad, because it's mostly bad. But there's some good in there. And gentlemen, you want to start off with the bad side, just to get it out of the way?
The good, the bad, and the racist. There you go.
Yeah, so Rick Westhead, top actual reporter and journalist in the hockey world, had two stories in the past couple of days. The first relating to the lovely Chicago hockey team noting that a lawyer for a second John Doe, of course, the first was identified as Kyle Beach, that is suing the Chicago Blackhawks after, especially the Blackhawks tried to say, oh, the statute of limitations is passed. You can't sue us for this anymore. And a judge said, LOL, you're not getting away with that bullshit. The second John Doe has stated that he plans, his defense, or not his defense team, but his lawyers, plan to subpoena Kyle Beach to testify. A trial in this instance won't happen until mid 2026 at the earliest. So at that time, Connor Bedard and Macklin Celebrini will have the Hawks back in the playoffs. And remember when this story first broke and everyone was talking about how this isn't going to go away? It's not going away. It's still ongoing because Jesus Christ, it's a multi-layered thing. But it's okay because they didn't work out a prospect earlier than they were supposed to. Fuck you, Coyotes. The other thing, though, because what more can be said about the Chicago hockey team at this point, is what Endo was referring to. And Jesus Christ. The Ontario Minor Hockey Association. Endo, can you explain what the OMHA is for those who have never heard of it before, like Sin as of 2 minutes ago?
So the Ontario Minor Hockey Association, OMHA, not Omaha, OMHA, is basically the governing body of minor hockey in Ontario, hence the name. They cover basically everything from, I believe, Junior A and below, because that's their minor hockey. They basically run the show and not talk about everything, but they're the guys who cover everything. If you want to do hockey in Ontario, it has to be sanctioned through them, unless it's unsanctioned, and yeah, they're a mess. Like a lot of things in Ontario, it's messy. I will say that.
The OMHA suspended an under 18 player last week after an investigation corroborated an allegation that the player said, good job, black boy, N-word, to another player. He was suspended. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Now here's the kicker. As Tougie was going to say, he was suspended for 7 games. Not only that, but because of Ontario has the Minor Protection Act, the name of the ensuing person who committed the act is protected. Meanwhile, the victim also got a 7-game suspension.
Correct.
For responding back and calling him a racist piece of shit.
Correct.
Huh?
Now, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker on this.
That was the kicker.
Yeah. This is the 6th time this has happened to this player this season. The 6th time.
Yeah. Endo knew more about this than I thought he did, so I'm glad.
Yes.
To read this excerpt from Rick Westhead's story.
Hold on.
Jordan Jacobs, the under 18 New Hamburg Junior Firebirds defenseman who was targeted with a racial slur, responded by calling the other player a racist piece of shit. Jacobs was also suspended for 7 games. Jacobs' mother, Patty, told me this was the 6th time this season her son has been the target of a racial slur during a hockey game. This is Westhead speaking. After I emailed the OMHA about this on Friday, the association on Saturday reduced Jordan's suspension to 3 games. In an email on Saturday to the New Hamburg Hockey Association, OMHA, Executive Director Ian Taylor wrote that the OMHA has a, quote, zero tolerance for discriminatory slurs of any kind. We have also been consistent throughout this year in trying to discourage any form of retaliation from our participants that involve derogatory or disrespectful behavior or language.
6th time, 7-game suspension.
Yeah.
There's no information about if this is the first time this person's done it. No information about this is a recurring thing from this player. But the league had after a certain point, it's not a one-off thing. It's targeting.
Yeah.
It's disgusting. Not only that, just
it's targeting to begin with.
The way he said it Good job, black boy. N-word.
Yep.
I mean, I can say it. I'm not gonna say it though.
Right.
Like English is not like that's not even a proper sentence or usage of it.
Did you expect anything more though?
That just sounds like he just did it because he knows he gets under the guy's skin. Of course we get under the guy's skin. It's a slur. But it sounds like literally no purpose for it, just to throw it in there.
The mother of Jordan Jacobs, Patty, had this quote. It's been heartbreaking. The one positive has been how many people in our organization have been supportive of Jordan finally using his voice. But then look what happens. He uses his voice instead of violence, and he still gets 7 games. Again, since reduced to 3. Like the biggest
it took her speaking out. It took her having an issue with it. Otherwise,
yeah. I mean, and literally, like the two aspects to this is one, he used his voice instead of cross-checking this guy in the fucking head, which is the least he deserved. Still gets in trouble. And literally their policy is it's like fucking high school or even middle school. Oh, you struck back against your bully, but well, we can't have you hitting people either, so you're also suspended. Like it's just incredible that people still think that that's a proper way to handle this. Like literally he was handed initially the same suspension for being disrespectful towards the racist.
That's like in high school where like you're getting bullied and not in high school, like in elementary we're getting bullied. It's like, well, maybe he's got a rough time at home. It's like, no, it's been found that bullies are literally the most confident ever in getting away with their actions. This dude's probably said some other crazy ass shit beforehand. And I hate hearing all the replies being like, well, this guy listens to like a bunch of music that says the M-word. Well, it's different because certain artists use those words as empowerment. And in this situation, the word is being used derogatorily. Fuck if derogatorily is a word, but the context, it is. The context of the word is in a derogatory sentence. Fuck this shit. Like, the amount of stories I've heard in Ontario.
Also, how do they know what his music library says? They just assume he listens to rap because he's black.
Exactly. Well, it's like Jesus, like the Akeem Alou story, where literally the coach is just like, "Oh, I won't have you listening to that N-word type of music in my locker room."
Yeah, that N-word music. I'm like, Jesus.
Yeah. Again, obviously the biggest takeaways from this is Jesus Christ, like this aspect of hockey culture. And make no mistake, it's an aspect of hockey culture. Like, yes, there are racists and racism in every fucking sport and every walk of life, but certainly hockey has a big time issue with it. You're talking about a sport like the biggest talking point over the last week, and we don't have to talk about this and we won't, was the Andrew Berkshire take on Zach Hyman. That was the biggest story of the week and the biggest talking point. The hockey world collectively just decided we're going to fucking dunk on Andrew Berkshire, whose take was Zach Hyman's not an underdog story because he comes from a rich family. Which, horrible delivery on his part.
Oh, man.
I kind of get what he was saying, though, because essentially if you're going to label Zach Hyman an underdog, he's the underdog of some of the most advantaged people in sports. Right, like we all know the hierarchy of hockey, and that it is predominantly a sport for people who grew up with money. There are exceptions to the rule. I asked about this on Twitter. Like, that was my big takeaway. Is like, okay, well, who are the actual underdogs? People mention like Wayne Simmons and talk about his past and stuff like that. Wayne Simmons was the ultimate fucking underdog because not only did you not come from a rich family, you came from a black family, and in hockey, like that's. I mean, Christ, that's playing professional hockey player on fucking extreme difficulty mode, and he did it. Wayne Simmons is the fucking man. But, that was the biggest thing, is it's like you're talking about the biggest story in hockey inherently being about how difficult of a sport it is to break into. And then you go into a situation like this with all the other shit that goes on. Like I said, I can't imagine trying to have a hockey podcast right now where you just like, let's not talk about any of the negative shit, even if it's negative shit like the entire hockey world dunking on one individual for a take on Twitter. But
man, I will say Berkshire doubling down was hilarious. I think the best part about it was he was like, I'm gonna put a graph out for like he made like a graph with like Crayola crayons, and I think everyone just fucking went with it. It was I like props to Andrew Berkshire for like sticking to his guns and his morals and his belief on that. But like, dude, everyone went on him. Also, noted goaltender Curtis Joseph came from a group home.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know it's rough when Elliot Friedman is dunking on you on Twitter.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, that was really kind of the biggest talking point of the week was the whole Zach Hyman underdog coming from a rich family thing. But again, it's one of those things where, you know, it just at a base level, like, again, we know this. Hockey is a very money-oriented sport in terms of people getting into it. And you could have picked better timing because Zach Hyman's had a great season. The funny thing is I don't disagree with Andrew Berkshire about him not being an underdog because he's not.
In the context of hockey, he is. In the context of life, he is not.
Is he though in the context of hockey?
Yes.
I mean, granted
in the context of pure hockey, a fifth round pick or whatever he was, becoming a 50 goal scorer. Okay. He's an underdog in the same way Pavelski was an underdog and turned into Captain America. It's not, you have to look at it is through in a vacuum essentially, and then he's an underdog. But like in life, hell no. Like you have to be privileged to play ice hockey in the first place. You have to be privileged to be able to even play in leagues. Like we've seen the ridiculous numbers of just fees that you have to pay in a league, not to mention all of the equipment and stuff like that. Like every single person who plays hockey as a kid, ice hockey in those greater areas with an opportunity to work your way to the NHL is privileged. But once you're there, then there's a whole other, spectrum of who has it and who doesn't. But to get there, you all have to have it. Beyond that, to make the NHL as a fifth round pick, in that vein, in that small, tiny percentile group, he is an underdog. But I completely understand Berkshire's point. It's just that he could have said it much better. And then also no one is going to fucking hear you in the hockey world. That's the other thing. You should just not say that because no one's going to hear you. Yeah,
I think that's another aspect of it too, right? Is like you're fighting a losing battle.
Yeah, no one wants to talk about the issues with hockey or what you have to do to be hockey. They just want to glorify it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fellas, do you know how much it costs to put a kid through AA, AAA hockey right now?
$50,000
Take a wild guess. I will use American dollars to make it easier for you guys.
$50,000 a year.
$10,000 minimum.
Oh, I saw a number like $50,000.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Might just depend on the area then, yeah.
Might depend on the area and the team. And, there's also playing for your local team. There could be a travel team and all this shit and all that. Now, we talked about this a few years ago on the podcast. I think right when I started coming around. The amount of money people are making in minor hockey as coaches, at least in Ontario, from what I've seen firsthand, is insane. What you'll have is guys getting under the table, bunch of money. Cash, whatever the fuck it is. There are guys who are coaching minor hockey getting like full-on salaries, like almost to the digit of six figures. Not like former NHLers. Like that I kind of understand. Because they have the experience, they have the knowledge of being in the show, a good resume, a good repertoire. But I'm seeing guys who are like dads of teams having like coaching like 3 different squads in the same organization. and they're making like $40,000 to $60,000 flat out, and still having a regular day job or whatever. The cost for entry for House League itself, when I was growing up, House League cost me about $400 for the season. You'd get from September all the way till March, so that's about 6-7 months. So times that by 4, so that's 28 months, 29 games guaranteed to go through. And you'd get a jersey, you'd get your team, you get all that, it'd be perfectly fine. Now, minor hockey, it's like House League itself is around $800 to $1,000, at least in Canada, at least in Ontario, where in Toronto where I live. That is insane. Obviously, rate of inflation and all that stuff, but the gear itself is kind of getting cheaper because everyone's getting used stuff. Like it's not a secret that hockey is expensive. One of the most expensive sports in the world to play, whether it's buying used stuff or getting brand new stuff. It's like not a secret that literally anybody. The way this was executed by Berkshire, great idea. But instead of harping down on the one player who kind of beat the odds while still having a technically advantage with his dad essentially being the reason why minor hockey in Ontario is super profitable for some people, he was still able to make it to the league and do everything. He had every advantage he could have in terms of getting scouted, playing, but when it came push to shove to, show his talent and everything, he did. And I think that's the reason why people defend Zach Hyman and his skill or quote unquote lack thereof or his improvement. Like there's been interviews about Zach Hyman during his time with the Edmonton Oilers, and they're saying he's the hardest working guy on the ice. Like if you look at his first year in Toronto versus how he's playing now, granted he has McDavid on his line mate, everything at that. He looks night and day, 100% different of a player than he was when he first started in the NHL. His hand-eye coordination, great. Stick handling, massively improved. Like I saw him at the Toronto Edmonton game. He was just like hands looked like butter, completely. So, yeah.
So again, there are aspects of hockey that aren't so fun to talk about, but worth mentioning, certainly. It's tough, right? Because you want to balance it out with some of the more positive aspects of it, and even like it'd be nice for me to just be like, oh yeah, hey, and we can talk about the NCAA tournament, and well, UMaine lost, and that's a shame, but hey, they had a good season. But stuff like this and reports like this from Rick Westhead ring a little bit more loud, as they should, and are a little bit more important than results of individual games. And like I said, it's one of those things in other sports, like there's similar issues there, certainly. Speaking of other sports, really quickly, before we transition to talking about some fun hockey things, baseball is back, and it's funny because for me as a Red Sox fan, not expecting much this season. For Endo as a Blue Jays fan, it's basically the same thing as the Leafs. I hope they do well, but probably not expecting it.
Kill me.
There you go. And for Sin, we've talked about in the history of this podcast how he's a fan of the Athletics and the tragedy that has befallen the Oakland Athletics in the form of their ownership group over the last while. Mm-hmm. So Athletics fans, like only a couple of thousand went to the first series. There were a lot more people like protesting in the parking lot. Like, we're going to go to the game, but we're not going to go to the game because fuck you.
Yeah.
The Athletics today.
Oh, God, what'd they do?
Oh, so they optioned a player by the name of Esteury Ruiz to AAA. Now, Esteury Ruiz is a 25-year-old outfielder. Played with the A's a lot last year. Had an okay season. To start off this year with the Athletics in that first series of the year, he was batting so far this season .429.
Nice.
With an outrageous 1.232 OPS, which is anything over a 1 is absurd.
Yes.
They
On
just
base
sent
plus
him
slugging.
they just sent him down to AAA.
Like they're just fucking unserious.
Like 3 hits and 7 at bats, an RBI, a stolen base. I mean, a great start in his first couple of games against Cleveland, and they're just like, nah, fuck you, you're going down. Oh God, it's I'm sorry, but I saw that. I'm just like, I can't. Because I know Sin's interest in baseball has been massively hit because of shit like this. It's just to actively watch a team, like we talk about tanking in hockey or whatever. Oh no, that's not tanking compared to what at the moment the still Oakland Athletics are currently doing. Who knows how much longer they'll even be in Oakland.
They can't even get the move to Vegas, right?
Yeah, they still don't have anything set in stone there. People make fun of the Coyotes. I
know.
At least they're actively trying.
Yeah.
So sorry to bring that up, but that just caught my attention. I did watch a fair amount of baseball this weekend. It's fun to have it back, along with the show being out and stuff like that. But Jesus Christ, the Athletics are an absolute disaster. There's just no other way to put it. But with that, gentlemen, let's have some fun with hockey for once.
Sorry, I just got a spam call. That's why I had to mute my mic and everything.
You answer spam calls?
Hockey. It was great.
Yeah, did you answer the spam call?
I did, yeah. He was like, hello, how are you doing today? And we're with Freedom Mobile. I'm like, hey, hi. He's like, how much money are you getting paid for your bill? We can give you 30% off. And I'm like, shouldn't you have my number on, shouldn't have my bill on file? And he's like, yeah, but I need to know, like, how much are you paying? I'd say, can you send me the information instead? Because I need to make sure this isn't like a scam. He's like, what? I'm like, just email me the information. You know, you have my number. Email me the thing on file. He's like, thank you for, no worries, and we'll just have a nice day. I'm like, exactly, yeah. And I just hung up.
Owning the spam callers.
Yeah.
Endurance M. Don't mess with them. Let's have some fun on the hockey side of things here, shall we?
Please.
First and foremost, Austin Matthews became just the 9th player in NHL history to have multiple 60-goal seasons. How many of the other 8 can you guys name?
Ugh.
You normally like the quiz stuff, but if you don't like it this time, it's okay.
No, I'm trying to recover from the beginning of this episode still.
I know, I'm sorry. It's never easy, it's never fun, but I feel like it, you know, again.
See how I'm so numb to it? I can just continue right on after.
Yeah.
It's great.
You're lucky.
It's great. You can totally tell who's held to deal with this for like 26 years now, kind of thing. It's great. Not the beach stuff, thank God.
Multiple 60-goal seasons.
Yes.
Yeah, racism. It sucks, right? Yeah. If only you could feel an ounce.
All right, well, Gretzky has to be one of them.
Gretzky is tied for first with 5 60-goal seasons.
I'm going to say Mario.
Yeah.
Lemieux is tied for third, technically, with 4 60-goal seasons.
Teemu was up there. I think he had his first one was 70. I believe he hit 60 one other time in his career.
He never hit 60 again.
Holy shit.
Isn't that
I can't
fucking
believe
insane?
It. God damn. That's nuts. Okay,
yeah,
so no Teemu.
In his rookie season, Teemu Selanne hit 76 goals. His career high from there was 52 in the 97-98 season. So he hit 50 goals 3 times, but never hit 60 again after his rookie year.
I can't believe it. I thought for sure. Did Brett Hull ever do it?
Yes, 3 times, in fact, for Brett Hull.
So I got, Wayne, Mario, Brett, the Golden Brett.
We went blue.
Who's fucking Canadian, by the way. Just gonna point that out there. Brett Hull is Canadian.
We don't want him.
He was born in Canada. He only ever played for USA because he was salty that he was left off the Canadian team once.
Yeah.
Damn, straight.
Yeah.
Shit.
It's not a lie.
It's Canadian.
Damn.
Ah, man. Madonna. Madonna did, right?
Never.
Oh, shit.
Never. Multiple 60 goals.
Because I know he's the top American scorer of all time.
Right. Is he still, or did Patrick Kane top?
No, I'm pretty sure it's still Madonna.
Hold on. Let's see. Go ahead. Keep guessing.
Fuck. How many others? 6? 9? Oh, so there's 8 others. I only got 3. Was Yager at one?
Yager never did it either.
Yeah, I didn't think so. But I was like, fuck me, man.
So for the record,
Bossy had to do it.
Bossy is tied with Gretzky 5 times.
Yeah. I'm like, of course.
Didn't Timo do it once?
No, Solani did it once, but never had
did you miss what
he did?
That whole conversation that we just had?
Yes,
yeah, I was dealing with something.
He's taking more spam calls. It's fine. For the record, in terms of U.S. point getters, it is Hull, Madonna, and then Patrick Kane.
So Madonna and then Kane.
Yeah, so Hull at 1391, Madonna at 1374, and then Kane at 1278. In terms of goals, it is Hull with 741, Madonna with 561, then Kachuk, Roenick, Joe Mullen, Pavelski, Pat LaFontaine, and then Patrick Kane. So, Joe Pavelski better than Patrick Kane, confirmed.
Damn right.
There is someone tied with Mario Lemieux, 4 60-goal seasons in his career. Noted Boston Bruin.
Ew.
Bobby Orr.
Just kidding. Bobby Orr getting 60 goals. That'd be insane.
Can you imagine?
Is that Esposito?
It is Phil Esposito.
Okay. See, I don't know anything about that guy besides 60s.
He was really good.
Yeah, he was good, and he's played for Boston. What is that? We got 5 now? Wayne, Mario.
Yep, so you are missing 3. Each of these guys did it twice. All of them from the late 80s into the 90s.
Ugh.
Yeah.
That's a tough one. Late 80s into the 90s. Okay. Trying to think of the dynasties back then. Like, I already hit an Islander player.
2 of them were a part of dynasties. 1 was a part of a Canadian franchise that went to a Stanley Cup but never won it.
Oh shit! Did Bure do it?
Pavel Bure did it twice.
Okay,
sure did. And your hints for the other 2: Edmonton and Detroit.
Did Stevie Y really hit 60 goals twice? Holy shit. Because I remember he was a prolific point scorer, and then he took kind of a step back to be a more complete player. I had no idea. Okay, that's crazy. Well, good guess then. The Oiler for the other one, huh?
Yeah. God, yeah. So Steve Yzerman, in 1989 and 1990. Back-to-back 60-goal seasons. He hit 50 goals 5 times.
What if it's just fucking McSorley because he's playing with Wayne? That'd be hilarious.
Not Marty McSorley.
Yeah.
However, Sin, close to your heart is this player.
As an Oiler, I don't know of any Oiler close to my heart.
You might regret that statement in a couple of months. The final player of the bunch is Jari Kurri.
Damn.
Why the hell would I?
He's from Finland.
Oh, I see. I thought you were referencing the Sharks. Like it was some kind of Sharks. I'm like, what the fuck is it going to work for the Sharks? Jari Kurri. Yeah, that makes sense. Damn. Well, I honestly, I did pretty good.
You did pretty well.
7 out of 8, 6.5.
So again, Matthews has done this twice already. He is very much now, like, we always bring up, like, oh, the Connor McDavid stats, and then we joke about, like, how crazy Wayne Gretzky is. Like, Austin Matthews is in that conversation now at this point. Like, there's still all the anxiety in regards to the Leafs fan base and whether or not they'll get it done in the playoffs and whatever. But Austin Matthews now has 2 60-goal seasons in his last 3 years. His lowest goal-scoring output was his age 20 season in 2017-18, where he scored 34 goals.
That's like when McDavid scored 97 that one year in the COVID season.
in terms of like these milestone conversations in regards to, again, mentioning Connor McDavid, we're going to be mentioning Austin Matthews just as much. I just mentioned like the top American point getters and goal scorers. The crazy thing is he's not all that far off. In terms of his current rank for American point getters, he is already 45th, ahead of the likes of other active players, JT Miller and James Van Riemsdyk, ahead of guys like David Legwand, who played over 1,100 games in his career. He's not that far back of other guys who played 1,000 games in their career, like Brian Smolinski, Jamie Langenbrunner. He keeps up at this pace. He'll crack top 40 next season. He's currently 40 points back of Kevin Hatcher, who put up 677 points. So, I mean,
he's
going to be up
too,
there.
wasn't he?
He was a defenseman,
Yeah.
In terms of goals, Matthews is already 15th all-time amongst American players in NHL history. 4 more to tie Peter McNabb at number 14. And then you're talking about once he gets into the 400 club, which will be next season most likely, he'll be chasing down guys like John LeClaire, Phil Kessel, Tony Amani, and then Bill Guerin at 429 to crack the top 10.
That's so crazy.
I mean, like, again, like you look at these numbers and it's like he already has more goals than like Brian Ralston, who played in 1,200 career games. He has more goals than Max Pacioretty, Dustin Brown, Blake Wheeler, TJ Oshie, Chris Kreider, Jason Pominville. Like, it's just, he's unbelievable. That's the only way to put it. It's just obviously, for some people, it's going to be very difficult to fully appreciate what he's doing because all the pressure on the Leafs is playoff success, the big contracts, so on and so forth. But Austin Matthews is just an unbelievable player. And to that point, I saw another stat in regards to Matthews. He now has the most career goals of anybody drafted since 2010. He was drafted in 2016.
That's so stupid.
That is a Connor McDavid, Wayne Gretzky-esque stat.
Yeah.
He has 359 goals in 553 games played, which is 0.65 goals per game. The next highest rates are David Pasternak, who was drafted in 2014 at a 0.52, and Connor McDavid, who was drafted in 2015 at a 0.52. And then you have other guys in the mix, like, as you would expect, guys drafted in 2010, Jeff Skinner, Tyler Sagan are up there. Dreisaitl's up there from the 2014 class, McKinnon from 2013, and then a trio from 2011, Kucherov, Scheifele, Zibanejad. And he has more goals than all of them. And obviously, as a result, a significantly higher goals per game pace.
Yeah.
He's insane. And funny enough, the guy that has him beat from 2009, John Tavares. If it wasn't for John Tavares, that since 2010 would be even further back.
It'll be further back soon enough.
If he keeps going. And it's funny because there was a comment here. Someone asking, he has to be the greatest Leaf of all time now, right? He obviously has more years to play to fill out the stat sheet, but I'd take him over Sundin.
He's the most talented. Greatest carries more weight, the response. I think.
He's certainly the most talented, not sure about the greatest yet.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody can disagree with that, too. Like, I remember when it was announced that they won the draft lottery and Steve Dangle had his freak out video about, holy shit, they have a number 1 pick and it's somebody like Austin Matthews. You talk about the greats of Leafs history. The problem is, it's like you do have guys like Matt Sundin or Borja Salming, Daryl Sittler. But with those guys, I mean, with the greatest Leafs, like you're talking about guys, Sittler's case played in the 70s and 80s.
Talking about disappointing teams around those great people. And unfortunately, right now, it's the same thing for Matthews.
Yeah, funny how that works out, isn't it? Unless you're a Leafs fan, it might not be very funny.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. So,
A big shout out to Austin Matthews.
But yeah, he's going to break whatever goal record exists by the end of his career. It's either going to be Gretzky's or Ovi's, and he's going to break it.
I don't disagree.
Like we talked about this, I think, a couple shows ago, where we were just looking. We looked at Ovi's stats and how we were kind of surprised he only had that 160 goal season. But he's scored 50 a bunch of times, and like Matthews is just scoring at a higher rate than him. And we thought the Ovi, greatest goal scorer of all time, he may turn out to be, but he's just gonna be surpassed by Matthews, and that torch is gonna be passed. And who knows who's gonna come along? Who knows what Bedard is gonna turn out to be? It could be a quick fucking turnaround of all of a sudden Bedard's gonna be putting what if he gets 270 goal seasons? Like, I'm just excited to see where the NHL will go in that case, and it's really, really horrible that we can't just focus on all that cool stuff.
So what I'm trying to look up right now, because StatHead has this information, through their first 8 seasons, I'm trying to get I have the comparison for Matthews and Ovechkin. So through each of their first 8 seasons, so for Matthews, obviously the season isn't done yet for Matthews, but that's 2017 to 2014. Ovi is 2006 to 2013. In that time, Ovi has 50 or so more games played. He had 371 goals. Matthews 359. That's pretty fucking close, given the 50 game difference between the two. Like, you're talking about a very comparable scoring pace there. Ovi had him beat in terms of points and stuff like that, but he's incredibly close, is Matthews, to that Ovechkin goal pace. Technically, he has him beat. Matthews in that time is at a 0.65. Ovi's at a 0.62. So yeah, I mean, if things don't change and this pace continues, Matthews is on an incredibly similar trajectory to Alexander Ovechkin.
It's crazy.
Other fun hockey stats. Jonathan Quick just became the winningest U.S.-born goaltender in NHL history with 392 wins, breaking the record held by Ryan Miller at
noted
391.
Sharks coach.
Noted Sharks coach Ryan Miller.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Jonathan Quick was an interesting case for a long time because people always talked about him as this unbelievable playoff performer, and especially after 2014, there was conversations like, is he already a Hall of Famer? 2 Stanley Cups, the playoff performances. And then obviously, towards the end of the 2010s, the Kings start to go down a little bit, as you would expect. Key players like Dustin Brown not really around anymore. And then, of course, I totally forgot about this. Jonathan Quick isn't a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. He's a 3-time Stanley Cup champion.
Oh, yeah, technically.
He won with the Vegas Golden Knights last year.
Yeah.
And then this year with the New York Rangers, a 37 game, or not age 37, games played 25 with a 2.54 goals against average and a 913 save percentage at age 37.
It's pretty good.
That is so far his best save percentage in a season since 2017-18 when he had a 921 with the Kings. Like, he's had a great resurgence behind a Rangers team that I still don't know how to feel about in terms of like defensive structure and stuff like that. But
yeah, if you're relying on Adam Fox to be your number 1 and play 2-way hockey, good luck.
There you go.
Get
had
fucked.
to set up for the Adam Fox slander.
I just love hating on that guy. It's so funny.
But an incredible
hate.
The player haters ball is back again, and Sin's first in line to hate on Adam Fox. Just an incredible, again, we're talking about like the Matthews career. It's an incredible career for Jonathan Quick. He is a future Hockey Hall of Famer. Again, winningest goaltender, U.S.-born goaltender in NHL history. Now we wait to see what happens with Connor Hellebuck. Because the top list right now is Quick at 392, then Ryan Miller, John Van Beesbrook, Tom Barrasso, Craig Anderson finished top 5, Mike Richter, and then Hellebuck. Connor Hellebuck right now is 122 wins behind Jonathan Quick at age 31. He'll turn 31 next month, actually. Connor Hellebuck could easily hit that mark and surpass Jonathan Quick. Like, we are talking about Hellebuck being on the Jets now for presumably the rest of his prime. Like, he signed that contract extension.
So they're going to have 30 wins at least as a goalie.
I think he hits that. I mean, again, like, next year starts a 7-year extension at $8.5 million. The Jets were a hell of a lot better this year than most expected, given their kind of crazy offseason changes. They're currently in 3rd in the Central Division, 4 points above Nashville with the same amount of games played. So you would expect the Jets are going to make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
The team that could knock them out right now are the St. Louis Blues, who are 12 points back.
That's not happening.
Left.
They just lost to the Sharks. Get fucked, losers.
It's just a matter of seeding for the Jets. They haven't mathematically clinched, but they've all but clinched, and it's been a great year for them. Keep an eye out on Connor Hellebuck and the Winnipeg Jets. I think he's obviously the next guy in line when talking about that type of stat.
Next question. Why do Canadian goalies suck now? When did Canada stop wanting to play goalie? Now all the Americans are better than Canadian goalies. What's up?
I have an educated answer on that, but I'll leave that for another episode.
I just asked the question. Why would you leave it?
Oh, that was hypothetical. I thought it was hypothetical. Because goaltending is systematic here. It's developed from being like, oh, we're gonna like cater to how you're playing and all that. Or it's like, no, you play by the book, you go by the book. Goaltending typically in other countries, especially in Europe, it's very fluid. In the way of, how do I describe this?
See, that makes sense, because here in America we have freedom, and you're free to do what you want. And over there in Commieda,
well, we have an episode title.
Y'all have to play the way that they tell you.
Oh, that was incredible. Well done.
It's not even Canada. It's just it's the North American. Mostly it is Canada, but it is the North American goaltending system approach where it's less free. No, I hate to say less free.
Yeah,
I hate to say less free, but it's very robotic. That's something that Paulina told me when she came over here. Goaltending in Canada is very robotic in the sense of you follow a system, you don't deviate from the system, you never it's basically if the system falls down, if the system breaks, you're shit out of luck. Whereas in Europe, they're taught, you have the system, but you have to know when to improvise or what to do in certain scenarios. And that's something that's kind of happened over the past couple years. Like, remember how I would used to say like Carey Price is like the bona fide greatest goaltender.
Number one goalie.
The greatest goalie. His way of playing the game revolutionized the way they taught goalies how to play hockey, because Carey Price is very set in stone, very like systematic, very like to the bone, like perfect.
Technical.
Yeah, very technical. And that's basically trickled down to the rest of the players, and it's caused a shift. Whereas a lot of coaches who want to teach the old style are getting beat out because they want that Carey Price style goodness with their new branch of goalies in Canada. That's one way I can put it. There's a lot more technical terms I could use and all this, and go into like RVH versus Panda versus VH, and why goalies don't stand up anymore when they make saves and why they're mostly in the butterfly. But that's a lot of stuff and a lot of terminology that not a lot of regular folk will understand.
Yeah,
and
they're just putting a lot of I don't know. It's putting a lot of your eggs in one basket of a career 917 guy.
Yeah, but he was fucking great positionally, and he was always where he needed to be.
But it's just weird that it's like it wasn't like he was a god at the position. That's why I'm not trying to hate on Carey Price or hate on the Habs.
You sure?
You sure?
I'm just saying, like, why would he, a guy with a career 917, which is solid, but like for someone who's supposed to be so technical, he was inconsistent as fuck. So like, what's the advantage? Goalies are inconsistent, sure, but I always thought this because they're weird and they have their own styles. But if you're going for this supposed technical perfection style or whatever, like, I don't know. That's I don't know. I don't know much about the position or anything like that. I'm just like,
the days of stand-up, butterfly, and hybrid are gone. It's hybrid or butterfly. There is not a single stand-up goaltender in the NHL. The last one was probably what's his fucking name?
I loved him. He was my favorite.
He was goaltender for the Stars.
UC Saros has the same career save percentage as Carey Price.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
No.
He played for the Stars. He's made the we're not fucking going home meme. Goaltender. God, I think he's Kazakhstani. I can't remember his name.
Oh, Anton Khudobin?
Yeah, Khudobin is the last stand-up goaltender because he was small.
Pekarine had the same career save percentage as Carey Price.
Okay, we get it. You love your fucking Finns. Go live there already. God damn.
Well, no, I'm just listing guys. Henrik Lundqvist had a higher. I'm curious as to why this guy from an era similar to all these other names, including Corey Schneider, by the way, Corey Crawford, Andrei Vasilevsky. These are all guys with the same or higher career save percentage. Tuukka Rask.
I'm just
saying.
No,
maybe Canada has got the wrong fucking savior.
Yeah. And they're playing catch up right now. I mean,
there's some goalies like fucking
Adam Gajan, who's like a insane prospect out of nowhere who carried
not anymore.
He carried Czechia. He carried Slovakia to like greatness in the World Juniors. And now he's a second round pick with the Blackhawks. Adam Gajan. Yeah.
So in regards to this whole thing, though, I think it's an interesting time to have this debate because we are about to see this a lot more over the next few years as we get closer to the NHL returning to the Olympics, because there is already that conversation of who the hell would Canada's starter be. And for the most part, it's not looking great regardless, I would say. Like, you have younger guys like Devin Levi, Nico Dawes is in the mix, Joel Hofer. You have guys right now like Logan Thompson, Stuart Skinner, Connor Ingram, Aiden Hill, Tristan Jarry, Binnington. I don't know if any of those names immediately, Jake Allen, like, I don't know if any of those names kind of jump off the page. It's like, yep, that's the goaltender for a gold medal winning Canada. You're going to see that conversation continue to come up a lot, especially too, because Canada's selection process in the past has typically been to go with the veterans. I mean, the most famous instance of that is 2006, when they didn't bring Sidney Crosby onto the team, and they had guys like Sakic. I think Yzerman was on that team still. Like, it was just a bunch of mostly older dudes past their prime because the hierarchy. And I think you're still kind of seeing the effects of that kind of old mindset being a factor when you talk about goaltending and the issues that are there and how systemic it kind of is, where it's like, nope, this is how Canadian goalies play. You're going to see that conversation continue to pop up a lot.
Yeah.
A little bit more fun stat time. We talked about the other guys, so let's talk about him now. Connor McDavid. 96 assists on the season, which is the most we've seen by an NHL player in 17 years. Do you know?
Jumbo had like 92 or 93 or something.
Correct, Joe Thornton. I didn't even get to finish the question.
You're not gonna if it's Jumbo, I know.
92 assists for Joe Thornton in 06-07. Was the last time we saw numbers this high up there for Connor McDavid. And again, he still has games to play this year. He is currently on 125 points in 70 games with 96 assists and 29 goals.
Dude, if he has a 2.5 pace for the last 10 games, he will still hit 150 points, which is ridiculous considering how he started the season.
Yeah, so which is ridiculous given he only has 29 goals compared to 64 from last year. You know?
Yeah.
He did that to show people he could. Like,
basically.
That's the reason McDavid is always going to be better than Matthews. We gave Matthews his flowers. I'm glad we did. He's a great player. But McDavid does whatever the fuck he wants. And that's because it's his league.
It is literally Connor McDavid is the new Sidney Crosby and Matthews is the new Ovechkin.
Yeah, kind of.
Crosby is the better all-around player. Ovechkin is probably the better goal scorer. But the thing is about Sidney Crosby's game is it has never been, let me just score goals for fun. Mm-hmm. He is the guy that makes people better around him. Connor McDavid has turned Zach Hyman into a 50-goal scorer. Right? Like, I made the comparison multiple times over the course of the season with Ilya Kovalchuk and David Clarkson. You know, David Clarkson became a 30-goal guy back when 30 goals was still a lot because he was in front of net while Ilya Kovalchuk was going to work. Connor McDavid, better than Ilya Kovalchuk ever was.
Oh, yeah.
And Ilya Kovalchuk was a great fucking player. He'd be a Hockey Hall of Famer for sure had he not gone to the KHL in the middle of his career. He still might be. We don't know. But that's a really apt comparison between those two. And I mean, you know, you talked about, since, you know, the struggles. It's been 59 games since the Oilers made their coaching change on November 12th, back when people were memeing on them for losing to the Sharks and like, Jesus Christ, they're terrible. What a disaster. Connor McDavid has 115 points in 59 games since the coaching change. That is fucking ridiculous. He is also now the first player since Wayne Gretzky to have 3 consecutive 120 points or more seasons. Do you know who the other ones are? There are 7 players all time to do it. We know that McDavid and Gretzky are 2 of them.
Oh, consecutive. Well, Lemieux.
Lemieux is on there.
Yager has to be on there.
Shockingly, no.
No. Rip.
We have talked about one of these guys already.
Mm.
What?
Do we need a hint?
Hold on.
Okay, he's thinking. For the record, Wayne Gretzky, you know, we're talking about guys that have...
Yzerman was one of them.
No, shockingly.
120 points. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so players with 3 consecutive 120-point plus seasons. We talked about now McDavid hitting his 3rd, only the 7th player to do it. For the record, Wayne Gretzky did it 13 seasons in a row.
Of course he did. I don't think Crosby did because he had too many injuries. I know he didn't do it consecutively.
Correct. No Sidney Crosby.
He could have.
Your first hint. Boston Bruins legend.
Bobby Orr.
Bill Esposito.
Bill Esposito.
Guy I know fucking nothing about.
He is one of the most underrated.
Clearly, because I know nothing about him, and he's on all these stat lists. Like,
right. I mean, again, though, you're talking about a guy, his best years were in the 70s. We're talking 50 years ago. It's understandable. But Jesus Christ, Phil Esposito was just a monster of his era.
Yeah, clearly.
The other 3, you have a California legend, a Canadian legend, and a defenseman.
A California legend, a Canadian legend. California? Like,
fucking
like a California team, or he was born there?
California team.
Oh, okay. Thank you. 3 consecutive 120 points.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
It's very tough. It ain't the fucking Sharks.
It's not the Sharks.
I know that for a fact, yes.
I'll save you time. It's not the Ducks either. We're talking all-time Kings player from eras past, not quite as far back as Phil Esposito. Although, actually, yeah, it was. Well, 70s and 80s.
Ugh, who even played for the Kings then? I don't even know who was playing for him, man.
Our other names are
right,
Marcel.
For the defenseman has to be. It's either gonna be Leach, or it's gonna be Coffey.
Paul Coffey. Well done.
All right, I got that.
The Kings player was Marcel Dion. And there's a Habs player in the mix as well.
Fucking Richard. No. I bet you... Richard was trash, actually. He didn't even score that much. I'm just saying, he has a trophy named after him. He scored like 150 goal season.
I love you. Just the trolling never stops. Oh, God. Guy Lafleur is the other man to have done it. Lemieux, Dion, Coffey, and McDavid all did it 3 seasons in a row. Esposito and Lafleur 5 seasons in a row, and then Gretzky with the 13. So
in a row,
unbelievably elite company for one Connor McDavid. But these type of stats do not surprise anybody nowadays.
Nope.
So a couple other things though in regards to hockey before we wind things down. I just mentioned the LA Kings. I kind of want your opinion on this. The Kings have been utilizing a lot of the 1-3-1 defense this season.
Garbage. Automatic garbage. Throw them out of the league.
Nikita Zadorov was quoted as saying this, quote, "They don't really make plays. They just rim the puck and sit back all game. It's their goal to don't play hockey," which might be a typo or just might be the fact English isn't his first language.
No.
And don't let the other team play hockey pretty much. Leon Draisaitl said this. Draisaitl, a serial puck possessor, confirms that a little piece of something inside him dies every time he has to dump the puck in against the 1-3-1. Quote, "A little piece, yeah, it's just unfortunate. It's quite sad."
It is. It's boring, man.
Drew Doughty had this to say about the narrative that the Kings 1-3-1 system is bad for hockey. Quote, "Pretty absurd comments, but when we brought the system, I wasn't too keen on playing it, to be honest with you." Now, we have seen other teams at times utilize the 1-3-1. The Rangers and Islanders have both done it. The 1-3-1 has been controversial, maybe taking center stage. Like you're talking about, for those who don't know, a very, very defensively heavy system.
Hell yeah.
Best way to envision it is when the other team has the puck, they have one guy at center ice, 3 guys stretched along their own blue line, and 1 guy behind them as a safety net. So if a team dumps the puck in, they have to get past the first 4 players in the neutral zone, and then there's automatically somebody back to get that puck retrieval should it be dumped in. We have seen super defensive systems in the past. The New Jersey Devils were highly criticized in the mid-90s for their use of the trap, and perhaps we never saw more controversy surrounding the trap than we did in 2011 when the Tampa Bay Lightning, led by head coach Guy Boucher, utilized this and got all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, fucking Game 7 against the Boston Bruins, nearly made it to the Stanley Cup that year.
And they have that moment where the Flyers are just like, oh, they're not forechecking. We'll just stand here with the puck because we have the lead.
There's a video on YouTube I highly encourage everyone to go watch of the Flyers just being like, fuck you, we're not going to engage with this. Yeah. And it just leads to a standoff. There's also a clip of Mike Milbury getting so pissed at the Lightning he walked off the NBC panel. He's just like, this is bullshit. He didn't say that, but that was the attitude. People hate this fucking system because it's boring.
Yeah.
However, it is very, very effective typically. And it's worked out well for the Kings. They've had some struggles in the second half of the season. They currently occupy the second wildcard spot in the Western Conference. They are 5 points ahead of the St. Louis Blues with a game in hand, barring a brutal collapse for the Kings, who do have 6 wins in their last 10. They're going to make the playoffs. And I think a lot of people will be like, okay, maybe I won't watch that series because there's a chance it could be very defensively heavy and low scoring.
Drew Doughty is a system defenseman. Confirmed.
You know what this reminds me of? The 2019 Super Bowl, which was the most boring fucking Super Bowl in existence. It was like special teams just doing whatever they could, and Tom Brady just doing whatever he could as well. What is it? Julian Edelman won the fucking MVP?
What Endo's referring to is the 2019 Super Bowl was the Patriots and the Rams.
And it was
awful. Final score of New England 13, the Rams 3. The lowest scoring Super Bowl in NFL history. You had a combined 6 points, a field goal each through the first 3 quarters, and the Patriots scored 10 points in the fourth.
Yep.
It was the most defensive, perfect execution of football that probably has ever been played in the game.
I would argue it was also bad execution on the offenses.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Great defensive ball. It's amazing. Like that's like the marquee game you want from your defensive line. 100%.
Heading into the game, the over under. Well, in terms of like the point spread, the Patriots were favored by 2.5 points. So heading into the game, people expected a defensive showdown, a close game, and it was that and then some, essentially.
Oh yeah.
That's not the comparison I think people want for hockey, is that the 1-3-1 is the lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time strategy within the sport.
It's boring, but it works. It's funny because I play beer league for like a super low level team. They're like really, really bad. They're basically guys, like older guys who just kind of learning hockey. Well, they learn hockey late and they're on like 40s and 50s.
The Deep Slayer League.
Yes, and we ran a 1-3-1 against the top team, and we beat them 2-1.
It's the great equalizer.
Oh my god, it was the best because I'm like the fastest guy when I skate out. I'm the one at the top, just putting so much pressure on them, and we beat them 2-1.
I'm a little bit surprised though that it's the Kings running this strategy.
I'm not.
Well, I was just saying, or thinking from like the offensive standpoint. Like you got Kopitar, Kempe, Byfield, Trevor Moore, Kevin Fiala. They just got Victor Arvidsson back recently from injury. Like they have some really good offensive threats. And I would almost more imagine a team like the New York Islanders employing the 1-3-1, where they do have some threats, but we also know that the future GM of the year, Lou Lamoriello, loves his grinders, his Matt Martins, and players like that. But then again, that 2011 Lightning team had Saint Louis, a young Stamkos, Vinny Lecavalier, Teddy Purcell, Simon Gagne. Like they had some good offensive threats too. So
yeah, it's just a system when you have weak team defense, and it makes you better at it. But it's boring because it's severely limiting, not just for the game itself, but for you too. Like if you're not forechecking, I don't know. I feel like you can frustrate the other team mentally, but I don't know. I think it's also, it's just boring to me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big critique of it, right? It's just it makes for a very boring hockey game to watch. Personally, I mean, I would care more about results than come playoff time, at least, right? Like, do you want to have the most exciting team in the playoffs, or do you want to have the team that wins?
Oh, of course you want the team that wins.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I'm sure if I was a King fan, I'd be like, fuck yeah. If it works, if it's working, don't fix it and whatnot. But like, I just think this is just speaking from a lot of different levels as a hockey fan. As someone who casts esports, the trap is so fucking bad for entertainment.
Correct.
And that's what, at the end of the day, hockey is. It's an entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that, man. That hit hard once you compared it to NHL esports, because Jesus Christ, yeah. Yeah, I can see the positives and negatives to the style. And I mean, at least for the Kings, it's like, well, if they lose, they're going to get clowned on by the hockey world to a Berkshire extent. Because here you were and you didn't even win doing that, So we'll see what happens with the Kings. In terms of the other little things that we had here, I want to talk about the Flyers really quickly. They've obviously had a super interesting season. They are currently in the second wild card spot in the Eastern Conference, primarily because of the surge of the Washington Capitals back up the rankings. Flyers trying to fend off threats from the likes of Detroit. Islanders are a little bit further back now. It's not looking too good for them. But the Flyers have obviously had a very interesting year or two. All the Provorov stuff last year, and then, you lose Carter Hart this year. But they have brought in a goaltender who they intended to bring in last year, as they have finally secured Ivan Fedotov.
Was that the guy who was kidnapped by the Russian army?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask about that when we were talking about something. I was like, dude, whatever happened to that guy who got kidnapped by the Russian army?
Oh, fuck.
So what happened was, on May 7th, 2022, Fedotov, as a free agent,
Happy birthday
is
to me.
signed to a 1-year entry-level contract with the Philadelphia Flyers for the 2022-23 season. Fedotov, by the way, born in Finland. What a guy. But is Russian. Anyway. So he signs this contract, and while in preparation to depart for North America, now keep in mind, he signed the contract May 7th. On July 1st of 2022, he was arrested for alleged evasion of military service in Russia and sent to Severomorsk, which prevented him from joining the Flyers. For the record, Severomorsk, whatever the fuck, is up there. It's up there. It's pretty north.
Gulag.
It's
It's in the Urals.
He was sent to the Gulag. I'm not even joking.
It is located on the Kola Peninsula in the Arctic Circle in a permafrost zone on the rocky east coast of the Kola Bay.
So it's not technically the Urals.
Severomorsk is a subarctic climate with long, very cold winters and cool to mild summers. They sent them up north. Is what they did. They sure did. Following that, he would miss the entirety of the season to fulfill his military requirements. Upon the completion of his compulsory training, which is a hell of a term, Fedotov's contract with the Flyers was initially announced to have been tolled for the following 23-24 season. However, with the memorandum of understanding suspended between the NHL and the KHL, which was essentially the respective NHL and KHL contracts, the NHL team saying we won't go after KHL players, Fedotov was signed to a 2-year contract to go back to CSKA Moscow in July of last year. The KHL later announced to have registered his contract with Moscow on the basis of Fedotov not holding a valid and binding contract with an NHL club. In July of last year, the NHL and the Flyers contested the KHL's decision and submitted a request to the IIHF, the International Ice Hockey Federation, that his contract with the Flyers still technically count. Finally, March 28th, CSKA terminated Fedotov's contract, and he has now joined the Flyers.
Jesus.
Great last.
Obviously, we're talking about May of 2022. You're a few months removed from the Russian invasion of Ukraine. You're starting to see the, God, what is the term that I'm thinking of here, where countries are just like, fuck you, Russia.
Sanctions.
Annexation.
Sanctions. Thank you.
Right.
Jesus.
Annexation.
The annexation of Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
you're talking about a lot of those sanctions finally being handed down and the KHL responding with, fuck you then. And the thought is that Russia's going to take a more isolationist approach to their sports again. We saw that effect with Matvei Michkov, also drafted by the Flyers, where he was essentially a consensus top 3 pick bare minimum before this, before the invasion of Ukraine started. And he slipped down the board a little bit.
Yep.
Just very interesting how the Flyers have been the ones kind of involved in this now, but they get their guy. Fedotov's a 27-year-old goaltender, 6'7", drafted 188th overall by the Flyers in 2015. Again, very intrigued to see what effect this might have on the future, and will there be issues trying to get Michkov over there? With Fedotov, how much of this was legit? Did he actually dodge the military service, or did they try to use him as an example?
Probably the latter.
Yeah. I mean, ESPN had an article here. Flyers general manager Danny Briere stuck to silence on Fedotov's path to Philly as the goalie was introduced on Friday. Quote, "We'll just leave the details out." Still doesn't sound like it was a very smooth process to get him over here.
They had to Argo his ass out of there.
Basically.
Argo, fuck yourself.
Oh, man. So just one of the most wild stories that we've seen in our time on this podcast. And we'll see what happens with Fedotov at the NHL level. I hope for his sake it works out, because about time it's like, well, I got to kind of go back to the KHL now, because it didn't work out at the NHL level. That could be a little bit awkward. But yeah, for now, he gets to focus on playing hockey in the U.S., and we'll see if there's any further issues in regards to players in the NHL. But a crazy, crazy story. Outside of mentioning, like, hey, Josh Doan, great start with the Coyotes. The only other thing to really mention is the playoffs. Sorry to Josh Doan, but yeah, it's, not as much to talk about there. It is a cool start, though. In terms of the playoffs, though, we talked about, okay, who's going to make it, who isn't, somewhat recently. I wanted to take that updated look because we know now within the Atlantic Division, both the Bruins and Panthers have clinched a playoff spot. The Bruins are currently 2 points above the Panthers. Panthers have a game at hand, so they could be caught. The Leafs, 93 points with 1 game at hand on Florida and 2 games at hand on Boston. Can the Leafs make up a 6-point gap to the Panthers with 9 games left, or are they condemned to being the road team in their first round series?
I think they can.
All 3 teams are hot.
Yeah. But you know who's hotter? Ilya Samsonov, after being sent down for mental rehabilitation. He's back.
He just fucking got there.
Yeah.
How damaging is the media in Toronto?
Pretty bad.
Oh, this poor guy.
He had a shutout against the Sabres, and after he's like, "Yeah, I'm fucking back. Fuck yeah." You see that shit? That's me.
Oh man. Obviously intrigued to see who makes the playoffs, who doesn't. The wild card teams in the East. I talked about the Flyers being in that second spot, 82 points. The Red Wings are 2 points back with a game at hand. The Flyers are 5 points back with 2 games at hand. The Devils, 6 points back with just a game at hand. Is it safe to say that the likes of the Devils, Penguins, Sabres, they're pretty much done? It's just whether or not the Islanders or Red Wings can kind of get their shit together and knock Philly out of the playoffs, which is still kind of crazy, right? Because heading into the season for the Flyers, I don't think anybody expected them to be in a playoff spot at game 75. Especially with a lot of the changes to their roster and stuff like that.
They've just been steadily falling.
Right.
They were set. I think they were even first seed at one point. Maybe not. Maybe it's just second seed, but they're second seed, and then they were third seed for a while. Now they're wild card 2. Like, not a great trajectory. And Larkin's back for Detroit.
Yeah.
So honestly, I think Detroit pushes them out.
I think they kind of have to, right? For the Flyers, there wasn't really too much of an expectation to make the playoffs. For the Red Wings, there certainly were those expectations with the roster changes they made. And especially after the addition of Patrick Kane. So, I mean, for them missing the playoffs, I hate to say it, but I don't think they get the excuse anymore of like, oh, but it was a building year. It's like, no, that fan base expected them to make the playoffs. And especially to not make it, should Philly make it, that's a failure of a season.
Definitely.
For the Islanders, they're probably done. I think 2 wins in their last 10. You know, Patrick Waugh takes over. Just not enough. Not enough.
Takes over based on name value only, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, look, like Lane Lambert was their coach before, if I'm not mistaken, and he wasn't cut out for the job. But the bottom line is that roster construction for the Islanders is abysmal. And we all know why. It's future GM of the year for 2024, Lou Lamoriello, and the way he's building this team. And the problem is he might have already done too much damage in terms of the contracts that he's handed out. They have Matt Barzal signed for 7 more years at 9.15. Horvat, 7 more years at 8.5. 6 more years of Pierre Engvall at $3 million. Ryan Pulock 6.15 for 6 more years. Pellick at 5.75 for 5 more years.
This is basically me signing all my medium elites long term because they're steals using the 15%.
Right.
But it works for me because it's a fucking video game.
Their lines right now, by the way, Anders Lee, JG Pajot, and Bo Horvat as the top line. Cizikas, Barzal, Hudson, Fashing on the second line.
Who?
Correct. Engvall, Brock Nelson, and Kyle Palmieri on the third line. Matt Martin, Kyle McLean, and Cal Clutterbuck on the fourth.
Can't believe Cal Clutterbuck's still playing. I feel like just he's been playing
73 games.
Fucking ever. And just always been a grinder. He's just never, and he's just still.
He made his NHL debut in 2007-2008. Kyle Clutterbuck.
So. He's been around a while.
And then their defense, for the record: Pelican, Dobson, Riley, Mike Riley, and Ryan Pulock, Alexander Romanov, and Robert Bortuzzo. I think the Islanders, Lou Lamoriello, legend, Hockey Hall of Famer,
maybe
81 years old.
Why is he still working?
It's time to go, Lou. Go enjoy the beach, please.
Well, he lives, in Long Island. That's right. I said in. So I'm sure there's beaches there, but they're New York beaches, so they're not great. Go to the Hamptons. He has a house there. He has to.
We've talked about this before. What year did Lou Lamoriello get his start in hockey?
Oh my God. Yeah, we've done this before and I can't remember.
In the 50s. Fuck me.
No, it's in the 60s.
Lamoriello became the head coach of the Providence College Friars men's hockey team in 1968.
Yeah.
Lou.
Go,
buddy.
Go home.
It's time. It's time.
Yeah, stop taking GM of the year from people who deserve it. Like Mike Greer this coming year.
And then in the West, it's pretty much done. Like I said, the 8 teams are pretty much set. I don't think the Blues are making up a 5-point gap to the Kings. Minnesota's even further back, and then teams like Calgary, Seattle are out of it at this stage. We'll get into it once it's time for the playoffs, talking about, teams and their seasons that were and shortcomings there. Like we'll talk about how this was a disappointing season for Seattle, and stuff like that. And obviously how the San Jose Sharks are that much closer to securing top lottery odds. Although we all know how that draft lottery is going to end.
Mm-hmm. Chicago could fall into third and they'll still win it. Somehow.
I mean, the San Jose Sharks do have a controversy on their hands with stuff, so. Who knows?
Yeah, we know. We know that adds about 10% to your chances to win the draft lottery.
Yeah,
that's true. That is true. Well, time to be depressed again. With that, everybody, we will look to wind things down. Again, a lot of hockey talk, some good, some bad. That's hockey. That's just hockey at this point. We have resigned to that fact at this stage. But gentlemen, it was a good one. It was a fun one. Endurance, from a content creation standpoint, what do you have going on?
I am playing Bay-ball. I played the Bay-ball. I hit the ball really hard. I think I mentioned this before, but I tried to face scan myself in MLB The Show 24, and it stole my melanin. All of it. Sin, if you haven't seen it, it's on my Twitter.
Oh, I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm a melaninless man. That is who I really am in soul and in body. We both, Tougie and I, do look like siblings, who take away this melanin. It's great. Besides that, nothing much coming out. I had an idea of something that I wanted to do. Oh, I remember what I wanted to do. I was going to play Mario Golf for the Switch and go through the campaign and just play that, because I just picked it up again earlier today, and it's a lot of fun. So I might stream that later, maybe later tonight. I don't know. I just to clear my head from stuff that's going on, but I'm doing good. Everything's great, and that's me.
Sin for the win. What do you got going on?
I've got a YouTube channel. Yeah, that picture.
Oh my god! It's me.
Sorry, Sin.
Splitting image.
Continue. You do have a YouTube channel.
That's it. Yeah.
He's got a YouTube channel. You can check out some NHL franchises always. You can still get the Blues series going, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Have you done anything baseball? Do you plan on it?
I don't know, man. I was like, I could do baseball, and then it's like, man, I never want to play the baseball game when it comes out for some reason. And I don't know why that is.
Fair. I mean, it's a game that's not for everybody,
Yeah, so, and I don't want to keep it, also, this is gonna run on for too long here, but I don't want to keep just getting in only being sports. I'm trying to do other stuff on the channel, so it's if I'm probably gonna add another sport, but at this point I'm gonna add FIFA because I have the most fun with that out of any other game. I'm gonna start doing FIFA career mode because there's so much cool shit to do in the FIFA career mode.
I was gonna say I think that's a good way to kind of tie it into hey, I'd like to do Be a Pro content again, but here's what a game like FIFA does significantly better than NHL's Be a Pro, which is a shame, honestly, because I was thinking about that with Road to the Show, which, by the way, baseball pretty much every night right now. NHL stuff still on the main channel, stuff like that.
Look how many leagues you can play in all these other games, EA.
Yeah,
fuck.
I might play NHL 24 sometime soon, but man, I don't know if I'm finishing the roster editing at this point because EA's rosters they're just so fucking bad.
Dude.
And that's so the roster editing was the only thing that really kind of saved my interest in franchise mode. And now without it, people like Vasi still do a great job, but I'm such a stickler for certain details that it's not even that Vasi does or doesn't do a good enough job. It's just that, in certain regards, things just fucking bother me if they're off. Fighting skill, people having higher hits and shot blockings than they should, all that shit. I was checking out, though, Road to the Show. And I think it's funny because it's a pretty bare bones mode, but the gameplay is so engaging.
It's quick. It's quick.
Yeah,
you're in, you're out.
NHL Be a Pro does a lot of stuff right in terms of the setup, giving you in Road to the Show, your contract doesn't matter because there's nothing you can spend the money on.
Mm-hmm.
NHL and FIFA give you certain boosts and stuff like that to spend the money on.
Yeah.
It's just I don't know. I guess it just comes down to personal interest of well, here's what NHL does do better in a Be a Pro sense than some other games, but still for some reason it doesn't quite hit the same. But a game like FIFA can give some damn good examples over oh, here's what if they added this to Be a Pro, it would be that much more engaging, and I'd like to play that again, because you were a very franchise and Be a Pro heavy channel, and now it's just kind of switched over to franchise because Be a Pro has its faults.
I think compared to all three of those sports games with their single player, like Be a Pro-esque modes, I think like they're like you said, certain aspects are better in all three of them. I think for NHL, their problem is it takes too long to get into a game when you get stopped. The stop and start with the NHL is way too long because you can get a random cutscene and you're waiting a minute and a half to pick a dialogue option because it has to load through and load up more text. With Road to the Show, you very rarely get stopped, but when you do get stopped, you have actual dialogue options and choices in dialogue that have to go through. But to go from game to game to game, it's like this, real quick. It's super snap of a finger, you're in the next game. Like when you get a cutscene and get called up to double, triple, and into the show, it's not even like 2 minutes of a cutscene, 3 minutes of a cutscene, but it adds that brevity between you going from game to game to game to game, so you're kind of rewarded with that. And with FIFA and their career mode, you have an interactive cutscene, everything. You have the mix of both what the Road to the Show offers and what NHL offers, and having those cutscenes, because you have one game a week and you have 15, 20 minutes of just straight gameplay. And then you hop into the training and you have the option to sim the training or play the training itself, or cutscenes and dialogue just in a menu. Like they all have good things about them. They all have bad things about them. I think out of the three, Road to the Show, FIFA Pro Club, FIFA Career Mode, and then NHL at the bottom.
Yeah. That's that could be its own podcast, is talking about Be a Pro style modes and what certain games do well compared to others. So we'll leave it at that for now, and who knows, maybe that'll be our next show. For
my ranking, I put FIFA at the top, honestly, just because gameplay is amazing. Another thing is that you feel like there's always real progress being made. Is that and you can you have so much freedom to choose. Like you're like, I'm fucking kicking ass. I just won, Premier League championship and stuff like that. I've made all kinds of money. You can decide at any point, like, hey, I'm gonna go back to this small league. I'm gonna watch that YouTube video, that YouTube channel that talks about all these underdog teams. I'm gonna go back to one of these in some mid-ass league and lead them to glory.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. And I understand that other leagues aren't constructed like that, but my biggest issue with NHL is that, hey, Mr. Top Prospect, you're the top prospect. You're not ever going to get sent down. Doesn't matter how you play in this preseason. You're going to be on the, thrown in the NHL. You're going to be on the top line. It doesn't matter what your ratings are. You're going to be on the fucking, it's.
Your name is the rookie for 25 years. NHL 24. Your name is the rookie for 25 years.
Like, the fact that you can't even skip the opening cutscene to Be a Pro
Pricey pawn hockey got going on over there. It's been 4 years.
If you're gonna have a story mode, you have to change it.
With that, everybody, look forward to our Be a Pro discussion podcast coming up very soon. Oh, God. Story modes are overrated as fuck. God damn it. They are. I don't want to sit here and deal with the long shot or the journey.
It's a long shot. It's a long shot.
Hey, Alex Hunter was pretty cool. I'll be real. The one time that little suburban kids could be a black guy and not have it be in a racist context. It's great. FIFA. Let's go.
We love you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.